Christmas. The time to spread Christmas cheer, hang stockings over our chimneys, build cute snowmen, go Christmas caroling, huddle on our couch and watch reruns of Home Alone while sipping on some hot cocoa, and contribute to consumerism by buying gifts for family members, coworkers, and acquaintances out of guilt and social obligation. Many may claim that Christmas has lost its Christian values. Well, what if we told you it wasn't about Jesus in the first place? You're watching Explore Mode, and today we're explaining the origins of Christmas traditions. We all know why we celebrate Christmas today. I mean, it's in the name. But if you haven't figured it out by now, Jesus was in fact not born on December 25th. See, no one really knows exactly when he came to Earth, as an exact time or date was not documented in the Bible. In fact, his birth was not really a cause for celebration until the Catholic Church decided to make it a thing. Is it too early for an Explore fact? Not all Christians celebrate Christmas in December. In fact, the Orthodox Church celebrates it on January 6th and 7th. The reason for this is that they use the Julian calendar, put in place in 46 BC by Julius Caesar, which during the 20th and 21st centuries is 13 days behind in comparison to the widely used Gregorian calendar. Even the way they celebrate it is different. Orthodox Christians usually fast on January 6th until the first star appears in the night sky, symbolizing the birth of Christ. They also have a feast, although traditionally it does not contain meat or alcohol. As with most holidays of the Christian nature, December 25th was a date on which pagan holidays were celebrated, and that was a huge no-no for the expanding Catholic Church. At least, that's one of the reasons that has been proposed by historians. See, the date matches up with several pagan festivities, which include the end of Saturnalia, the Roman celebration of Saturn, the god of agriculture, the Persian celebrations of Mithra, the god of light, and Yuletide or Yule, a Germanic celebration that marks the winter solstice. Both Yule and Saturnalia celebration traditions can be linked to modern Christmas customs. For example, during Saturnalia, people would exchange gifts, have big role reversal banquets in which masters served their slaves, and they'd also decorate their temples with fir trees. Yule, on the other hand, also celebrated with a large feast in which they would eat and drink. Do these customs sound familiar to you? Another tradition we adopted from pagan celebrations is one that has helped further romantic storylines in Hollywood movies and helped pop singers pull at the heartstrings of their fans: kissing under the mistletoe. And FYI, mistletoe looks like this, not this. That plant is holly, which also has a role in Christmas tradition, but more on that later. For the Druids, the Norse, the Greeks, and many others, the mistletoe was a divine plant. The Celtic Druids believed that its evergreen nature meant it was a symbol of life and fertility. The Greeks used it to treat menstrual cramps. The Nordic people even have stories surrounding the powers of the plant. One story says that Norse goddess Frigg, often depicted as Odin's wife, protected her son Baldur from all things on Earth by making every object and living thing swear not to hurt him, making him essentially invincible. There was one small problem though. She forgot to ask the mistletoe, not thinking it would be powerful or threatening enough to kill her son. Other gods had fun hurling objects at Baldur and seeing him unbothered by them until his brother Loki discovered that the mistletoe was his kryptonite and tricked the blind god Hoder to shoot an arrow made of the plant, killing Baldur. One version of the story says that Baldur was successfully brought back from the dead, which caused his mother to name the mistletoe the plant of love, promising to kiss anyone who walked underneath it. But Christmas hit a speed bump in colonial New England. See, the Puritans hadn't forgotten the pagan origins of Christmas traditions, and they were not too happy with those who celebrated it. So during the 17th century, the Puritans saw their chance. They had seized power in England after the execution of King Charles I, and in 1647, they enacted a law that banned Christmas celebrations. The Puritans of New England followed suit. However, many colonists tried to keep the Christmas spirit alive, and by 1681, the ban was no more. By 1860, 14 states had declared Christmas a state holiday, and a decade later, President Ulysses Grant had declared Christmas a federal holiday. Now that we've given you a crash course on the history behind the holiday, let's get to modern tropes and traditions related to it. First off, Father Christmas. Or Santa Claus, or St. Nicholas, or Sinterklaas. There are many versions of the jolly old bearded Christmas man. When did we come up with him? Well, we didn't exactly come up with him, and he's also not a caricature invented by Coca-Cola as many people seem to believe, but we'll get into that later. Santa Claus was indeed a real person. St. Nicholas was born around 280 AD. He was the bishop of Myra, a small town in modern Turkey, and was known for his kind heart and generosity. He was said to be particularly caring towards poor children. In fact, he was known as the patron saint of children and a selfless gift giver. There are many stories recounting St. Nicholas's good deeds. One such story says that St. Nick saved 3 young girls from prostitution by sneakily throwing bags of coins into their house so that their poor father could use the money as their dowry. His good deeds would go on to earn him the title of saint, as well as his own holiday, December 6th. It was on this day that children would receive gifts in the name of the great gift giver himself. Parents also saw this as a great excuse to keep their children in line. Be a good Christian child and you'll get gifts from St. Nick. But then came the Protestant Reformation, and saints weren't looking too good in Northern Europe, so many dropped these celebrations. This was a problem though. People still wanted a gift-giving holiday, and of course a bearded old man they could use as leverage for their children's behavior. That's when Santa Claus came in the picture. Countries across Europe began coming up with their own versions of St. Nick. There's Sinterklaas, who's mainly popular in the Netherlands. Other regions took the naughty or nice approach to their legendary characters and gave their St. Nicholas a spooky sidekick. For example, Central Europe has Krampus, a half-goat, half-demon who helps Father Christmas deal with kids that have been bad. In other regions, people mixed local lore to create their own Santa. Slavic countries have Ded Moroz, or Father Frost. And in Italy, it wasn't an old man that came down the chimney with gifts, but an old woman called La Befana, who shimmies down to drop off gifts. Evil demons aside, we can all agree that today, Santa Claus is known as the white-bearded, fat, jolly man who ho-ho-hos on his sleigh and dresses up in red and white robes. Speaking of colors, red, white, and green. Who decided these would be the colors of Christmas? Let's jump into an Explore fact. That's one answer to the mystery of Christmas colors: holly. According to Ariel Ekstad, the co-author of The Secret Language of Color, this flowering plant is responsible for the red and green obsession surrounding Christmas decor. There are several reasons for this. Druids, Celts, and Romans used it during pagan celebrations for good luck. But then, you guessed it, enter the Catholic Romans and they decided it was their thing. The red of the berries came to symbolize the blood Jesus shed during his crucifixion, and its sharp leaves represent his thorn crown. Then comes Coca-Cola. Now, many people like throwing this fun fact around every Christmas about how Coca-Cola invented Santa Claus and how the plump Santa wearing red was all a conjecture for advertisement. Well, no and yes, but no. Throughout the 18th and early 19th century, Santa Claus could be seen wearing red, blue, and green in advertisements, and he was already being portrayed as a jolly old man. Maybe less fat than the Coca-Cola Santa, but you get the idea. The reason we believe Coca-Cola invented Santa Claus is due to a 1931 ad campaign designed by Haddon Sundblom, an American artist with Finnish and Swedish roots who was tasked to link Father Christmas to the sugary beverage. Needless to say, he did a great job. He matched the bright red color of his robe to that of the classic Coca-Cola logo, and boom, an icon was born. Since then, it's a version of Coca-Cola's Santa Claus that we see taking mall photos with kids in winter. What about Christmas trees? As we mentioned at the start, celebrations like Saturnalia already featured evergreen plants as decoration. Many other cultures like the Celts and Vikings would also use these plants as ornaments during the winter season. However, the modern version of the Christmas tree is often credited to the Germans. It is said that it was Martin Luther who first decorated his evergreen tree with candles. How about Christmas caroling? Surprise! Pagan origins. During the winter solstice, some early European civilizations would gather to dance and sing. Then came the Christians and, as they did, replaced these songs with religious hymns that celebrate the birth of Christ. Actually, there is an interesting factoid about one of the most famous carols. Let's jump into an Explore fact. You've probably heard this song before. First off, when this song was first written by organist James Lord Pierpont in 1857, it wasn't called Jingle Bells, but The One-Horse Open Sleigh. And it wasn't meant to celebrate Christmas, but Thanksgiving. The song wouldn't become associated with Christmas until the 1860s and 1870s, when some choirs began adding it to their list of Christmas tunes. Also, Jingle Bells was the first song to be broadcast from space. In the winter of 1965, the crew of Gemini 6 played the beloved jingle for mission control down on Earth using a harmonica they had smuggled onto the spacecraft. Thanks for watching Explore Mode and happy holidays to all! If you liked this video, hit the thumbs up button. Click on our playlist for more exploring, and before you leave, make sure to hit the subscribe and bell button so you get a notification whenever we upload a new episode. See you next time, and in the meantime, remember to keep your Explore Mode on.